Good evening and welcome everybody to our virtual talk. With you here is Ilya Kursenko, who will be the moderator, and I am so excited to present you to the acclaimed award-winning jazz composer, pianist, music director, vocalist, jazz instructor, and actor, Mark Meadows.
Thanks so
With
much,
uh,
man. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
with us is also Mark's co-producer, Michael uh, Schwartz. Oh, there we go. um, and it is an honor to present Michael Meadows to the audience. Mark is a man on a mission to create a unifying sound that breaks through social barriers. There is something for everyone in his music, which harmonizes pop, gospel, R&B, hip hop, funk, and jazz. With his lyrics suffused with meaning and his velvet voice, Meadows cuts through the noise to speak to all. You can hear his genius in his four self-produced albums, Be the Change from 2019, To the People from 2016, Something Good from 2014, and The Child is Born from 2008. Debonair on the stage, he is an entertainer of the highest caliber. In August 2016, Meadows made his acting debut as the titular role in the Washington, D.C. premiere of the hit Broadway musical Jealous Last Jam at the Signature Theater. Since then, he's been immersed in the theater scene, successfully combining the raw, spontaneous nature of jazz with the storytelling, heavily produced nature of theater. The son of a gospel and jazz vocalist, Meadows, who released his fourth studio album, Be the Change, in 2019, began his musical odyssey at the age of 3 with the gift of a toy keyboard. At age 5, he started formal piano lessons under the tutelage of renowned Russian classical pianist and pedagogue Rosalie Levon. Then at age 13, he expanded his training to include jazz piano with the equally renowned Julie Bunk. Meadows' formative years were short, beginning to draw attention to his artistry while still a teenager. Downbeat magazine twice awarded Meadows honors for his work, first in 2007, dubbing his song Groovelicious second best pop rock composition in North America. In 2008, Downbeat named his performance of In the Groove best pop rock solo in North America. After graduating from the famed Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts in Dallas, Meadows went on to earn two bachelor degrees in psychology and jazz piano from Johns Hopkins University. Afterwards, he decided to focus on music for the first time and went on to earn a graduate performance diploma in jazz piano from the prestigious Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore. Increasingly in demand around the globe, Meadows has performed alongside world-renowned artists, including Usher, Cynthia Erivo, Renee Fleming, Kendrick Lamar, Kamasi Washington, Angelique Kidjo, Bobby McFerrin, the NSO, Ledisi, Terence Blanchard, Nicholas Payton, Kurt Elling, Sean Jones, and Warren Wolf. He has headlined at premier venues including Jazz at Lincoln Center and Small Jazz Club in New York City, Blues Alley, Bohemian Caverns, the Warner Theater, and the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., and the Music Center at Strathmore in North Bethesda, Maryland. In 2018-2019, he performed, acted, and music directed Signature Theater's Soul Divas Cabaret, Motown Christmas Cabaret, Ain't Misbehaving, Unforgettable, a tribute to Nat King Cole Cabaret, Hitsville, USA, Motown Cabaret, Motown 2, The Reprise Cabaret, and Creative Cauldron's Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. When his demanding schedule allows, Mark continues to tour with his group, Mark Meadows and the Movement. Mark uses his artistry to bring forth a positive message of love, joy, and hope to his audiences. Mark, it is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to the audience of the American Center in Moscow. Welcome, Mark.
Let me repeat what I just said. Oh,
Yeah.
technology. Ilya, thank you so much, man. Thank you for those kind words. That was that was very. I wrote. I mean, you did an amazing job, man. And I love my fellow Russians. I've been into Russia. I spent about a week and a half or so in Russia. Went to Moscow and loved it, loved it, loved it. Anyway, I want to give. It's my pleasure to introduce my partner in this mission, Michael Schwartz. Michael is one of my closest friends. We've known each other for upwards of 10 years now, and that's what he is first, is a friend. And secondly, to me, he's also an amazing director. He's an amazing visionary. He's won so many awards I can't even count. He's done so many things that I don't even know about, and the more I know him, the more I'm like, dang, I didn't know you did that, man. I would read his resume, but I don't think we got time, especially my long. I need to cut that thing down. It's too long. But anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce Michael Ivan Schwartz.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Your resume continues to astound me. Usher? I didn't know you played with Usher.
Man.
That's awesome.
It was a lot. He's an amazing guy.
We can just talk about all the people you've played with for the next hour. No, we're excited, and this, I believe, is our first international screening of our film. It's a 23-minute documentary that I kind of call a docu-concert because Mark performs a lot in it and shares his own perspective about the issues of race in the US, and in particular, what has happened post George Floyd being murdered. And currently, the trial has begun for the police officer that was putting his knee on George Floyd's neck. So it's a serious topic, but Mark comes at it as just a regular human being that just can look at life and give perspective. That's not an in-your-face approach, but just a genuine, honest reflection on life. So we're looking forward to sharing the film, and Mark's going to perform some music, and we'll have a chance to do some Q&A and discussion. So excited for that. Thanks for having us.
And just as a fair warning, when you go over to watch the documentary, the first how many
45 seconds.
First 45 seconds are a little difficult to watch. It's just, some footage that's like interlaced with just facts and a blackout screen. It's some footage of George Floyd actually being having his neck
being knelt on. Yeah,
being knelt on. It's tough, but I urge you to watch it if you can. After that, it's nothing but me giving my perspective on Black Lives Matter movement. I want you guys to know that this is a totally open, accepting conversation. So whatever you might not have wanted to ask, any questions. I mean, Michael and I, we don't know you guys out there wherever you are in the world. So we definitely want you to, please participate, educate us. Let us know what you think about what's happening here, and we'll try to get on the same page and understand each other, because I think that's the important thing, is communication and understanding what other people are going through, and then making your own judgment and living your life accordingly. So enjoy the film as you watch it, and we'll be back in about 25 minutes or so. So thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. great. The movie, I've seen it twice, and it leaves me with a very strong impression always.
Thank you.
And I wanna ask my first question about the title, but don't believe them. To who do you address that?
That's a great question.
It is.
I address it to all the listeners who are checking out this video. You know, like, don't believe that we can't get better. Like, if you look at the history, you'll see that we've been going through this for so many years, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's not like there are things that we all can do and conversations that we can have, and it's all, you know, I feel like a lot of people don't believe it's getting better. They feel like, you know, we've not gotten better since the civil rights movement, and although we have a lot of issues, I believe we have gotten better, and I think that it's working. And so it's don't believe the history that believe it and get to know it, but change it for the better.
Michael, what about you?
Yeah, I think, you know, I'll take some credit because I picked the title.
You did.
And it's from the song that ends the film. And I think that it's a song that I knew very well, the chorus, but had no idea what the song was about until we were working on this documentary together. And I realized, oh, this guy's talking about civil rights and history. And it's kind of a very in-your-face song without realizing it, because it's very poppy and kind of happy sounding. And for me, it's that, you know, don't believe there's a limitation to what we can do, what African Americans can do, what anyone who's being kind of put down by another group of people, that you don't need to believe what other people are saying about you in that negative capacity. And we need to have better beliefs in each other.
Mm-hmm. What you say, Mark, is actually really true about don't believe that it's not going to be better. I remember what Will Smith said at Stephen Colbert's late night show. He said in 2016, racism is not getting worse, it's getting filmed. And that
Wow.
struck me. And can I ask both you, Mark, and Michael? I think the message of solidarity in your movie is central. It's strong, and it calls upon everyone, no matter what color of your skin is, what your beliefs are, to fight injustice. And the beginning of the movie is strong, the first 45 seconds, and it brings me to thinking, if I were there at that very moment during this 8 minutes, what would I be doing? So have you ever reflected on that? And could you share your thoughts?
Ilya, you pose the best questions, man. Like, you're great, dude. And thanks for asking that question, Michael. And it's funny, Michael and I both talked about this exact topic. So, Michael, I'll take it if you want. You want it?
Well, I was going to say, I think I avoided watching the whole thing, the 8 minutes, 45 seconds, until Mark and I were working on the film, and we kind of had a finished version of it. But the beginning of the film originally didn't have that. And it started with Mark being interviewed for the news and was very upbeat and happy. And I thought, the film didn't come out of that. It came out of George Floyd and that horrible situation. So I went and watched the whole thing. And I felt very much like what you said. What if I was there? Which person would I have been in that filming? If anyone's watched the whole thing, you hear a young African-American man kind of yelling at one of the police officers that's standing there watching. You hear the woman, the young teenage girl that's recording it. And then you eventually, I think it was a white woman who works as a ambulance worker, and she starts saying, you know, check his pulse, and he's non-responsive. And I was like, what would I do? And I literally imagined myself crawling on my hands and knees to show that I was safe and not threatening, and going and trying to interact with them, knowing I probably wouldn't do that. But that's what I felt. And I literally was weeping watching it. And so I think that is why we put it in the film, is that there's this sense of the rest of the comments that Mark gives and his perspective is based on not just this happening with George Floyd, but that, as you mentioned with Will Smith, we're now seeing it. We're now seeing all of the things that many of my Black friends have probably told me over the course of their lives and my interactions, and sometimes believe them, sometimes maybe thought, well, maybe you were overreacting, or maybe the police officer didn't mean that, or you said. We have all these things, I think, especially as a white person in my culture, that we maybe doubt the stories, and it's right in front of our face. And so that was pretty meaningful for me to think about that.
Thank you. Anything to add, Mark?
Yeah, sure. So the way how this came out, how this video came to be, was I was writing songs during the pandemic, and Michael and I were experiencing together this Black Lives Matter movement, and we were talking about working together because no one in the United States or around the world had work, at least artists. You know, we were calling each other and figuring out how we can make a statement, make some art. And he and I were talking, and at first it was going to be like a music video, and then after George Floyd, our whole conversation kind of shifted. It was always about, you know, doing something for change, but it was like, no, we need to do something about this now, and this is how we're going to go about it, and we figured it out. But all that to say is, for this video, it's not answering a question. This video is a artist statement. I'm the artist, and I don't have all the answers. I have open conversation, and I have a heart that I think that allows other people to say how they feel and open up conversation and learn, but I don't know the answer. And to answer that question, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I think it's almost a statement of you can't do anything. Like, what if I have, you know, pushed him off? No, he would have killed me. Would I have, you know, called the police? They wouldn't be there for another 10 minutes. Would I can't physically push him off. Like, you know, it's so it's almost as if it's like a statement that I think whoever you believe in is in charge of all this, but it's a statement that they're sending, which is, you can't do nothing. We can kneel on your neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and watch it. Millions of people and around the world watch it, and we're still gonna probably not charge this guy. So it's I don't know the answer. What would I do? I don't think there's anything I could do, you know, if I was there. But that's where I got to shift it and say, but it's up to us to have these conversations and figure out, you know, maybe Michael and I need to talk for a half hour about, like, okay, if we ever in this situation, like, what is literally the best thing to do? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think what we can do is small changes and having conversation. And as Will Smith so accurately said, like, everybody's seeing it, so we're in a way better off. And now it's just other people other than Black people marching in the streets. It's other people other than Black people who are the victims standing up and standing for your fellow brother, you know, because we're all related. I'm sure if we trace our lineage, Ilya, somewhere our great times 20 uncles, they knew each other, man.
Oh, how about that? I mean, I believe that both you, Mark, and Michael have given a response on that cruelty that we've seen during summer, and your cooperation, your inspiring art, your message is part of that response or reaction on what has happened, I think. And this is a strong affair that you are busy with. And can I move on to asking about the music in particular, which is great in that movie. I keep singing "Be the change" to myself, and I think I'll wake up tomorrow. First thing, I'll be singing that to myself again.
Thanks, man. That's nice to hear.
Jazz has been a great cultural influence upon Soviet Union and modern Russia. Jazz is very popular here, especially the classics of jazz, and the modern people really think about whether jazz has a future. And you play jazz in the movie, and you appeal to jazz as a strong message to address our politics and society. What role do you see for jazz in the 21st century?
Great question. Thanks for those kind words. And I've actually gotten the chance to play at ESSI in Moscow and loved my experience playing at that jazz club. Yeah, it- people there are just they're great crowds. You know, I was there, I don't know, maybe like 2.5 years ago, and people were curious and they were clapping along and they were energetic, and it's everything that as a jazz musician you want, that call and response, and it was great to perform there. I think that jazz is that connecting force. I think jazz is freedom. Jazz is knowing that no matter what situation, what song, what instrumentation, what melody, it's never going to be the same, because that's not how life is. You got to adjust. You got to say, okay, you went there. Oh, we're going a little bit. You know, we're taking it up a half step. You go with it. And I think it's making the best out of a mistake. Sometimes, you know, you thought the chord was a G7, but instead you played an A triad, and all of a sudden that sounds hip. You know, that's like, yeah, I could have just been in G. Oh, that's not. Here we go. I'm in G, right? Now I'm in A. That's not right. That's wrong. You know, A triad. If you look at the scale, it doesn't work. But when you do it, it sounds cool. It sounds even hipper. And so I think it's that, and I think that stands for what we need to do. We need to see what's been done. We need to educate ourselves. You know, you need to learn the history. And I know the history. I know Mozart and Beethoven, and Rachmaninoff is one of my favorites ever. And then you kind of you listen and you create, and it's never the same. um that's what I think that stands for freedom to me.
Thank you, Mark. I actually start receiving the questions from our audience that's watching us from
Yay.
all over Russia. And I have a question from Anastasia Kisurina. She's asking, Mark, were there any other major events that inspired you to create art and music pieces?
Great question. I remember specifically as a kid, I started playing piano, started studying with Rosalie Levant, which my dad actually ran into her. My dad lives in Texas, and he ran into her in the grocery store yesterday. She's an amazing Russian pianist and teacher, and uh, she taught me so much what I know. And but to be honest, I didn't really love the practice. My dad had to make me practice from age 6 until I was like 12 or 13. I would do it occasionally, but I can say the main times I would be inspired to go practice was whenever I saw a concert live. Like every time I would go, my dad would take me to the symphony, or my dad, we'd go hear a jazz club or something. Like nearly every time that
Mhm.
happened, as soon as I got home, I just like wanted to like practice and play. So that's probably the biggest influence, is just seeing live music,
Mhm.
which can't wait till we get back to that. Um, but also just being aware, being the best human I can be, and knowing that I have a unique background, and that I grew up in a more so white area in a suburb outside of Dallas called Richardson, Texas. So my dad lived in Texas in a white suburb, and my mom lived in Washington D.C. in a predominantly black area. And so
Mhm.
I was constantly back and forth between DC and an all black
Yeah.
area, and Texas and all white area. And so I had to find my own way. I had to, figure out how to fit in. And I feel like I know a vast amount of different kinds of
Mhm.
people, and that's what, and I also love a wide array of music. And so I think that's how me giving a message of spreading my perspective, which is many different perspectives.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's how it comes about.
Mhm. And this makes this amazing movie. Michael, were you gonna say something?
Well, I was going to ask, I feel like the question asked a little bit about when you started using music in particular, maybe about specific issues. And I know when you were here in Baltimore, and that's where we met, when Freddie Gray was killed in the back of a police van,
Yeah.
you wrote a song. And I'm just curious, was that the first kind of movement type song, or when did you decide I'm going to speak specifically about this issue?
I'd say for sure, "What Would You Do?" I think that's the song that I wrote after Freddie Gray, and I just remember the feeling of being so uncontrollably mad. I feel like I'm a pretty calm person and I can control my emotions, but when I heard about it, I was just slamming my car wheel. I was just couldn't express how like angry and hurt I was. And what came out of that was a song that I'm really proud of that I think gives light to how I feel and how many people feel in this country in particular. And so yeah, I think it's like using I definitely use whatever is happening in my life in the world to influence what I write. It's normally the best stuff, you know, the more accurately you can depict through your music how you're feeling and what is going through your life, which is, you know, I'm an open book with my music. If you look at it, you know what's happening in my world. And I think that that is how I use music as my muse to give my perspectives and give my just
Mhm.
trying to be a good person and being aware of what's happening in the world
Mhm.
and sharing as much love and light as I
Mhm.
can.
Mhm. And you bring music into this social political discussion, which is quite a rare thing these days. The art has gone too far into, I don't know, satisfying our day-to-day pleasures, that we've lost it for this important cause. Actually, I have a question to Michael in this regard. I think your cooperation is brilliant. That, you know, a black man and a white man, they work together on this cause of greater justice on. And Michael, what does this cooperation mean for you? For how long have you been working with Mark? And
You know, it's I'm 51, to give people perspective of my age. So when I was I remember in middle school, so maybe 12 years old, so it's the early 80s, I was made aware of apartheid in South Africa. And I was just ripped up about it. I think I had learned a lot about the 60s civil rights movement and Martin Luther King, and was really interested in being a part of that, but knowing I was too late. You know, it's 20 years later and civil rights have been kind of dealt with to some degree in the US. And I just was so upset. And I wrote papers, and anytime we had an assignment, we could pick a topic, I would always come back to that issue of apartheid, and always dreamt of going to South Africa and somehow making a change. And followed, honestly, reggae music, Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer, who just passed recently, and their emphasis on freedom and equality. And so as I developed as a filmmaker, you know, I often pursued interactions with folks that I worked with in the nonprofit world. And so I've done a
Mhm.
lot of video work with organizations that do mentoring in the city, or sports, or a lot of work with youth in urban atmospheres, and often with African Americans. And that was one of my kind of intentions in moving to Baltimore when I moved here almost 20 years ago. And was involved with a community of kind of mixed race folks to talk about these
Mhm.
issues. And that's how I met Mark. Was we went to a church that had a very specific focus on racial reconciliation, is what we called it. And the idea
Mhm.
that we wanted a community that cared about the people around us. The church was even
Right.
established in an environment that was primarily African American. And so there's just had always been this kind of heart's desire. But I'd say this project was one of the most specific, targeted, you know, environments. And we did it more out of, you know, I didn't have a lot of work. I was open to doing this kind of for free, and let's just do something positive. As Mark says, you know, I've got this time in COVID. What am I going to do with it? And music has always been something I've loved. I have no talent for it. And so let me apply the talent I do have in filmmaking and working with my talented brother.
Very.
And, you know, Mark and I just, this is one of those things, I think, as a white person, it's hard to say without sounding silly, but like I've always just had very close black friends, not majority of my friends are white, but I've always had a handful of very close friends that are African American. And I don't know that I went out and pursued that. It's just kind of how I've lived. I've loved gospel music. I've just, you know, put myself in places where that could even happen. And so I think Mark and I just naturally became friends regardless of our
Mhm.
race, and then combined our efforts to do this film.
I really hope that the next movie to come out will be about your cooperation, the history of your friendship,
Hey,
because we will be really, really interested to see, I think, in details just how that story unveils of a long cooperation that also works so great for art. Actually, I receive another question from Pavel Kachinevsky, and this is a very music-oriented question, Mark. It asks, what are your favorite jazz ornaments? And if you could demonstrate them playing the piano.
Wow, good question. Yeah, sure. I'll give some of my tricks. Let's see here. So I'm a big fan of triads. Like, I love triads. I practice triads. The triads are in classical music. They're in jazz music. They're everywhere. So what I like to do is take certain triads and play, like, instead of just 1, 3, 5, I'll add the 2, the one. So like, say we're in the key of C. You could play around with the C triad. Right? Add maybe the second. So kind of mixing around different rhythms with it. Then maybe add another triad over that. I might think like I might add the fourth. So 1, 3, 4, 5. Start adding some different triads. A D triad. And just playing around with some shapes like that, and trying different things rhythmically with it, little rhythmic patterns. Obviously, sliding notes. That makes sense? A little quick digit.
So brilliant. So brilliant.
Far from it. Far from it.
Oh, the music is amazing. And
Thank you.
Whilst this pandemic, I see that you are staying active, and I see the many concerts and videos on your YouTube channel that feature some great performances. What are your plans after the pandemic is over and we kind of get back to normal?
Sure. I plan on, really, fortunately, through good relationships and planning as much as I can, I've been able to stay pretty busy during the pandemic. And what I've been doing is doing screenings of this documentary and working on more projects like this. I've been able to do some music directing in safe environments where everyone gets tested at different theaters. And I've been, teaching lessons and performing live streams. So I really plan to keep doing that, and definitely get back to live performing. I've got several outdoor live performances coming up, so please check out my website, markgmeadows.com, or follow me on social media. I'm pretty good about posting about what's coming up. All my social media is Mark G Meadows, and I've got a show I'm doing. I'm pretty sure I'll be doing in Denver, a show called Wildfire, which is about all of the fires that have happened on the West Coast during the pandemic. I've got something with Signature Theater coming out, I think in June, called After Midnight. It's a musical of the works of Duke Ellington, the lyrics by Langston Hughes, and orchestrations by Wynton Marsalis. It's amazing. I can't wait for people to see it. It's got so much tap dancing and interaction and lights and smoke machine and the whole thing. It's awesome. That's coming out, I think, in June. And yeah, I've got several projects I've released. I've got several projects I'm working on of my own and collaborations. Trying to do everything, man.
Yeah. Again, bringing what we began talking with, from the George Floyd. I know that internationally now the cultural revolution, if we may call it so, but the change in culture is also enormous, and we read about new tendencies that emerge in the US, probably new ways of art. Do you realize yourself part of this greater movement, and do you feel your purpose in this cultural flow that can really bring the change that we've been waiting for, I believe, for many years?
I feel like, yes, I feel like we are entering or are already in a renaissance in many ways, both with art and art follows culture. So I guess culture follows art. Either way, I think that we are, creating in different ways. We are collaborating with people that we never would have. Michael and I were friends, but we would not have done this in 2019. No way. Like, it was just our lives were too crazy. And this allowed us to sit down and say, what do we want to work on? What do we want to do? What needs to be done? And that's that kind of work, I think, is happening with many other artists. And I hope that it continues to happen. I think that once things open back up, I believe that people will want art and consume it. So we'll be able to give a message across to many different people, I think, because I think people are going to be fiending for it. And now the step is, are we going to, give a message, or are we going to just try to do it to stay busy and get tours and, make money? Which I think will make the right decision more than we have in the past.
And what about you, Michael? What part of your commitment do you see in this cause?
Yeah.
Any projects you have in mind?
It's interesting. I think, Mark, you're such an optimistic person. I'm much more cynical, but I also agree that it's going to be better than it has been. I think we're heading into a very self-centered, take care of me first world. And when the pandemic hit, in some ways we had to do even more so. We had to be self-protective, but I think it's given us a chance to slow down and say, why am I constantly going out and doing things and staying busy and just trying to, like, even if I'm not consciously thinking of competing against my friends and community, to always, like, as my friend said, I have a lot of dots on my calendar. You have your phone and it has little dots on it. It's like, you got a lot of dots today. And I think that having less dots has slowed me down to say, I want to put my hand towards things that I really care about, that I value, that will impact the world for good. And in the past, I think that came in the form of being a mentor or a coach. And I've done some, like, hands-on work, social related work, social justice work, but now trying to tie my physical work of video and how I make a living and tie that into more projects that are like what we did with Mark in this film. And I think, honestly, Mark and I are chatting about what is next. What is that story that we want to tell next, and have more opportunity to do it because we'll be freed up to meet in person. We didn't meet in person. I haven't seen Mark physically in a couple of years. I mean, was your wedding maybe last time I saw you in person? Maybe
we have not said that out loud, but
I'm just realizing. But we've seen each other on Zoom, a couple times a month for the past year, and so I think being able to do things in person will hopefully be the next step. I'm finishing up another cool music video that I did for a friend who I met at the same place and time as Mark. It's not very social justice oriented, but it's a beautiful, fun project. And being able to do more art with my work is kind of my aim. And music is just one of the biggest influences in my life. So hopefully we'll continue to do that.
Awesome. You inspire me both, and I keep thinking about our context back here in Russia, and when the Black Lives Matter movements were widespread in the US, here we still treated them as outsiders of the context because we have a less African American population, and we just feel that this has not been part of our history. I guess a lot here comes from education and literacy. Although, could you, before we move on to Mark's incredible performance to wrap up this conversation, could you maybe give us a message of why this matters for people of all countries, of all corners of the globe, what's been happening in the US and what's definitely happening around the world.
Great closeout. Thank you for saying that. I think that Black people in America represent all of the people who have been wronged, women as well, the LGBTQ community. I mean, there have been many instances where the government and the law could have done something more for those who are being wronged and discriminated against. And it's very disproportionately and obviously a thing in America, given America's history of bringing slaves and keeping them now imprisoned as slaves in our country. But it can happen to anybody, so it's almost like this movement represents standing up for those who, in every single religion that I know about, they all say, do for those the needy. You need to speak up and stand up for those, the sinners, the anyone who has less than. And I think that this movement stands for people who have less than, which in this country is very obviously people of color. But in other places, I'm sure you guys have your statistics too. So I think that being involved in this means you're being involved for everyone in this world who needs somebody to stand up and step up for them, because you didn't get where you are without having some advantages that other people did not have. So it's our duty as a human to just stand up for those who have less than us.
And Michael, that was a great message, Mark.
So from a little bit of who I am, I grew up Jewish, and I recently worked on a project that relates to World War II and a ship of 900 plus Jews who were fleeing Germany in 1939 after Kristallnacht and before World War II fully erupted, and they tried to go to Cuba and then to the US and to Canada, and they were rejected and sent back to Europe, where about 250 of the 900 were killed in the Holocaust. And so I think what Mark is saying in terms of we all have different people in our countries and cultures that have been put down, who have been blamed, who are not given the same opportunities, even just male, female, religion, other cultural issues, race. We all need to look out for one another. And I think as someone who's grown up in the US, I think we've often felt like, oh, we're like the world's police in terms of we try to go and say, hey, China, you're not treating the Uyghurs right, or this country, you're not doing this right with these people. And I think honestly, it's so encouraging that there's Russians who care about Black Lives Matter, even though maybe in their country, in your country, it's not about your citizens, but that finally people need to look to the US and say, hey, we need to call you out on your issues. And I think that's needed. I think that's why we need more universal and international interaction about topics like this, even if they're not about a specific issue that you're wrestling with. We're all wrestling with it, and we're all human.
That's great, Michael. That's a great message. Both. I think that music, in any case, brings this unity, and we all have our heartbeats for as long as we are alive. And what else can resonate in us than the beats of a music tone? And Mark, it is such a pleasure for me to announce you and bring you here on the stage with your musical performance for all of the audience.
Yeah. Cool. Let's have some fun. I'll take requests too, so keep your comments in there. I'll do it if I can, but I'll start with an original song called Stay Woke. This is a song that I wrote a few years back about being aware of what's happening in the world, of not getting complacent in your own security, and being aware of what's happening. This is Stay Woke with a rap written by Deacon Izzy. Deacon Izzy, y'all.
Do you want me to do the rap?
I don't know if we practiced it. I don't know, Michael. I think I got it. Thanks, though, dude. Oh, and I'll be playing with a backing track. That is the musicians CV DeShiel on drums, John Lee on guitar, Elliot Seppa on bass, and myself on keys.
Great, so excited.
Without a care, ignoring struggle everywhere. How can you say you're unaware with so much going on out there? Oh, don't ignore what you see. Don't let injustice be. Stay woke, be aware. People are struggling out there. There's so much despair, and so many don't even care. Can you give a damn? Lend out a helping hand. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. Now is the time to accept the change. Look within, never be the same. You got to love a neighbor, embrace a stranger. We can be what we wanted to see. Yes, you and me, we possess the key. Check it out. Cell phones, new apps, and social media. People get their degrees from Wikipedia. They don't care about what's in the media, only care about what they feeding you. I don't like him and he don't like me. Why can't everyone see that the system hates wheat? It seems like y'all sleep counting sheep. Got the itis while millions don't eat. It's not your problem, that's apathy. See, not caring make things worse, you see. Read a book cover to cover, make more time for one another. Like the morning on your school days, wake up, we need each other. Time's getting harder, mothers raise your daughters, fathers raise your sons. And spread love to everyone, cause the world need hope, changes in our scope. When it comes to hate, don't participate. I'm not saying I'm perfect, I'm me. You do you long as you're able to breathe. Don't talk about how life ain't fair, and you can't even stay awake and aware. Just be aware, people are struggling out there. There's so much despair, and so many don't even care. Can you give a damn? Lend out a helping hand. Stay woke. Stay woke, stay woke, just stay woke. Stay woke.
Mark, this was incredible.
Oh, thanks, man.
Such an energy from you, even thousands of miles away from us, but this was great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Have you got another song in mood,
Sure.
or
Sure,
maybe
of course.
something from your most favorite classics, or I don't know, let's say Mark's most favorite song of all time?
My most favorite song of all time. Wow, that's tough. There's no way I can do that. And how much time should I make it short, or should I play the whole song?
Well, we've got about 5 to 6 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
Actually 10. So
Okay, cool. Let's see here, man. I think I'll do one. I'll do a song called Superstition, which is a song by one of my favorite artists, Stevie Wonder. This is my rendition of Stevie's Superstition.
Brilliant. Michael and I are very excited.
I think you even performed this on my deck. We had a concert at my house on a pretty regular basis, and remember this one well.
Yeah, man. Yeah. There's a YouTube video of it live with my full band, so check that out too. Thanks for listening. This is Superstition.
Superstition ain't the way.
very superstitious. Devil's on his way, yeah. 13-month-old baby, yeah. She broke the looking glass. 7 years of bad luck. Good things in your past. When you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition ain't the way. Believe in what you've got today. Those other things will fade away.
Bravo, bravo, Mark. This was the freedom of jazz, well expressed, and I could hardly follow your fingers. They were so freely moving along the keyboard.
Oh man, I can't follow them most of the time. I just let them go.
I just want to thank you for taking this time and making our Russian Tuesday evening so special for so many people, filling it with music after the workday. And all I can wish is that you have a really great day, both of you, Mark and Michael, and that after the pandemic, after we can safely travel, that you come and give a concert in Russia, because I can tell you and promise you have just gained a whole Russian audience that was watching you and that has enjoyed your music so much.
Awesome.
Thank you guys. Let's make some change. Let's be the change.
Thank you very much, dear audience, for watching us. With you were the jazz musician Mark G. Meadows, his co-producer Michael Ivan Schwartz, and your moderator Ilya Kursenko. Thank you, and have a good night.
Ilya. Talk to you soon, man.